we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet to share these conversations on the Vegan Compass podcast.
We extend our respect to elders past, present and emerging, as well as any of our listeners and guests. Hello and welcome to the Vegan Compass podcast, unveiling truths, inspiring change.
We're your hosts, Rick Allport and Mackenzie Cross.
In each episode, we bring you meaningful conversations with vegan changemakers that remind us progress is possible, even in a world full of bad news.
Hello everyone. Of course, we're back today on the Vegan Compass podcast, and we're really excited to be bringing you an episode with Monika Ryniewicz. How are you today, Rick?
I am very well. I've come back from a 3-day yoga vegan retreat.
I'm jealous.
Yes, feeling really good. That was at Heart and Soul at Otford. It was a really lovely place to be. The food was incredible. The yoga, my knees gave out at the end, but hey, that's life. Years of playing soccer and too many injuries. But it was a beautiful time away, and I recommend anybody going to do it. It's a wonderful place to be. However, we have such a wonderful guest here today. So I'm going to quickly start off with Monika. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, guys, thank you so much for having me here today. Rick, that is a question I'm so excited to hear. Just full disclosure, this podcast of yours has been such an inspiration to me. So it is truly such an honor. Thank you both. Who am I and what do I do? So my name is Monika, and as you can tell by the accent, I am originally from Canada. Professionally, I work in the nonprofit space in environmental protection, but outside of work, I produce content that is focused on a trio of ex-lab rats that I care for, and I use my voice to project theirs. So I'm an advocate for life after labs, adoption, showing the world that rats make incredible companions, and I also volunteer with what some people might call the rats of the sky, which is pigeons. So I get together with city volunteers and I take part in de-stringing events. So I document that process, I share it with others, and I have recently signed up to become a carer for pigeons and helping them rehabilitate. So in summary, I use my channel to draw a special spotlight on some of the most misunderstood creatures, I would say, pigeons and rats, and hopefully inspire others to change those minds on their animals and to start helping them too.
Yeah, so amazing. We really appreciate all of the work you're doing. And as you said, these are such stigmatized species by society, and we'll get into some of those incorrect misconceptions about rats and pigeons. But firstly, I would love to know, where did your journey into veganism begin?
Yes. So I have been vegan for about 8 years, and I don't really have a vegan date, but I do remember what it was that planted the seed. I was traveling and I was staying in a hostel in Thailand, and my roommate at the time knew I was a vegetarian, and I just announced, I'm just going to hop downstairs and go get myself a cheese pizza. And she asked me, can I just have 5 minutes of your time and show you a video? And so I sat down with her and she showed me the video, Dairy is Scary. And naturally, my first reaction to it was anger. I felt like, I'm vegetarian, I'm already doing enough. But I was also so confronted with my own emotions and everything that was going on. I ended up still going downstairs and eating that cheese pizza. But what she showed me in that video, it planted a seed that would forever change the course of my life. I started to realize I couldn't unsee the cruelties of the dairy industry and what I personally think is one of the most disgusting industries that exists. It's the exploitation of motherhood, the exploitation of the female reproductive system. And so one day I just realized that I was feeling so great without dairy. I was disgusted by dairy, actually. And it's been 8 years now.
Oh, that's awesome. And what an amazing story. And so many vegans will say cheese was the hardest thing that they had to give up. Of course, we know that's from casein, which is, they say, is more addictive than heroin. So yes, that's the stumbling block for most people. But so you've been vegan for 8 years. What brought you into animal rights activism? Because, you're doing so much in that sphere as well.
Yeah. So I started activism first back home in Canada. I saw an event on Facebook that was being run by Toronto Pig Save. And I think that this is quite a more challenging form of activism to start with, but it was bearing witness outside of Fearman Slaughterhouse, where pigs were getting sent to slaughter. And at the time, it was still legal to give them water, provide them comfort. But since they introduced Bill 156 in Ontario, it made it completely illegal to intervene, to give them any love or compassion. But I was doing that with Toronto Pig Save. And I just remember that morning I woke up and I just felt so much anxiety over what I was about to see. And I was really scared about the pain I was going to be faced with. But I think one of the most important things when it comes to activism is being uncomfortable, being angry, being sad, and feeling those emotions. And so I went to document that, and I saw into the eyes of the pigs that were just, at the end of their life, and it broke me. It absolutely broke me, and I felt so much anger why people would sometimes even drive by and throw meat at you while you were trying to be compassionate towards these animals, and thinking, how can we even live in a world like this where we're normalizing it and hiding it as well? So that was a really big motivator for me to get started. And then as I was traveling the world, as I mentioned, I was in Thailand. It was a little bit difficult to continue in activism because you're switching cities or countries. But since I arrived to Australia, I actually attended the National Animal Rights Day last year. And as you are familiar with, the wonderful activist Pavel, he made a speech on the importance of getting active again, and people coming out and using their voices for the animal. And he really, I've told him this so many times, he lit the fire or the match to my fire again. So since then, I have been active in so many different ways across the city, and whether it's outreach programs or direct work with animals, it's amazing because you just find the best community of people as well, that you share the same values and everybody there cares. And that is something so special.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, interesting and wonderful that you mentioned Pavel. We will get him on the podcast at some point. He's such a driving force, and he's so passionate, and he's so creative.
And he also just exudes this calm energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he always smiles, and he gives the best hugs, and he just exudes everything that we want, and he looks so healthy. He really exudes the great healthy vegan lifestyle. But I want to just quickly mention that you spoke at this year's NARD, and you gave one of the most heart-wrenching, emotional speeches on the day. And you said to me, you haven't really done this before. You seriously nailed it. It was an incredible speech. We can't thank you enough for what you said.
And it's gone full circle from, you said you were inspired by Pavel's talk last year, and it was you giving a talk this year at NARD. So that was really special. And of course, one of the key themes of your talk was your 3X research lab rats that you have adopted from Liberty Foundation. So I would love to know, how did you first hear about Liberty Foundation and the work that they're doing?
Yeah, so Liberty Foundation is one of the most incredible organizations that exists, just because I got the 3 best friends from there. I actually first heard of Liberty Foundation, fun fact, years ago when I was still back in Canada. I just recently lost my heart rat at the time, and I was already anticipating that I was going to be moving to Australia, and I was looking for organizations or shelters where I could adopt rats ethically. And I came across Liberty Foundation, and what really stood out to me there was the fact that it was not just rats, it was ex-lab rats. And I thought that was so cool that there was this alternative end to research. And it's something that has always stayed on my radar. And since coming to Australia, I just knew like that is the organization that I want to get in touch with. And in terms of the amazing work that they're doing, so they have just recently opened up their first shelter in Central Coast, which I highly advise visiting to anybody who lives around the area. It is brilliant. You can meet guinea pigs, rats, mice, rabbits. There's a playroom, there's a jungle gym for them. You can see them in action, and they are just the most incredible creatures that are just, waiting for their forever homes. I also genuinely do think that Liberty Foundation, they are quite, they're changing history with our relationship with small animals at the end of research. There's a lot of facilities that works with beagles, for example, but rats and mice, it's not something that you hear of quite often. And so I think that they are quite honestly like trailblazers in showing the world what's possible. And it's happening here in Australia. And it's just something so special and so inspiring. So I really, really, really advise anybody just check out Liberty Foundation. They're the best.
Well, you're very inspiring in what you do because you have adopted 3 ex-lab rats, and if people haven't seen your channel, you can tell us your channel in a minute, but I am addicted to your channel. I just love seeing these 3 little munchkins running around doing all these little things. Now,
they're so cute.
I don't know how you tell the difference between the 3 of them, but they're albino rats, if I'm correct. So tell us, how did you come about adopting your 3 little munchkins?
Yeah, so I've always known how awesome rats are. Rats, because I had cared for rats back in Canada, I was familiar with their personalities. They are so empathetic. They can recognize if their human is crying and come and offer comfort. They're intelligent, they're curious, they are so funny. One of my favorite pastime activities is honestly hanging out with the 3 boys on my couch and just watching them just get silly. They're also very easy to care for as well. And actually, when I did a little interview on ABC News, and one of the quotes that they really took from my description of them was that they are literally pocket-sized dogs. You can just imagine a dog, but in a pocket-sized form.
That's so cute. I love, well, one, that you were able to get mainstream media coverage about rats, and 2, that's the quote that they use, because that helps people to connect more with them as well. Like, I hate that we have to compare them to dogs for people to care about rats, but it's nice to sort of break down those barriers and provide an entry point for a lot of people to start caring about rats.
So what is the name of your channel so people can come and find you? And we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yes, thank you, Rick. So my channel is called Free From Cruelty, and it's really centered around the boys living their best life, eating all the best foods, getting chunky and proud.
I love them fighting over the potato.
Yeah.
That was so cute.
This is on Instagram, by the way, for anyone who, we hadn't mentioned that yet. Okay, so obviously we've already, said that rats are notoriously misunderstood. You've told us a little bit about some of their characteristics there. But what are some of the biggest misconceptions that people hold about rats in your experience?
Yeah. So I have had friends tell me that they were creeped out by rats. And more specifically, it was about the hairless tail. And I love to really draw a comparison here. When people do tell me it's the tail that creeps them out, I ask them, well, what are your thoughts about squirrels? Because it's just like a squirrel, but with a hairless tail. They're just so sweet. And I think the media as well has painted rats to be quite dirty and evil, but that is not the reality of rats at all. And that's what I like to do with my channel, is challenge that belief. And I think when you really zoom in on a rat and just show their sweetness, their little hands, their fingers and toes, you just see they're just awesome. They're so sweet and cute and adorable.
their little nose twitching with their little whiskers. Oh my gosh, they're so adorable.
But I think the media has a lot to answer for,
Yeah.
because even when you're just saying, people think they're dirty, in the media, in films, they come with you dirty rat, and you just go, yeah, that's just getting into people's mindset. And it's like pigs, the way they say, oh, you're a pig, as if it's a really horrible thing to say.
Yeah.
So again, we need to change our lexicon. We need to change our language to, as you said before, rats are really clean. And, I don't know how they got to this, oh, you dirty rat, but I guess in some areas rats are also in the sewers and, foraging for food because they can't find things.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get more into it when we talk about your work with pigeon rescue, because there's a lot of similarities. But I think it's just the nature of, pigeons and rats are living in these urban areas because they have access to food from humans. And then they get tarred with this brush of like, oh, they're dirty because they're scavenging off our crumbs and they're living in the sewers. But they don't have another choice. Like that, they're living in the environment that gives them the resources that they need.
Well, they're living in the environment that humans have created.
Yes.
We've taken their environment away,
Yes.
and they're just trying to live the best possible life they can in an alien world for them.
Yeah.
But speaking of alien worlds, funny little segue here, but so animals in labs have spent their lives in sterile environments and very scared of humans because they know humans mean pain and everything associated with that. What's the journey like? So bringing these animals out of that environment, can you see the journey as they're opening up to human love?
Absolutely. And I think one of the most special experiences that you can have when fostering or adopting an ex-lab animal is just experiencing so many firsts with them. So their first time eating a peach, or their first time being wrapped in a blanket, eating some rice, or smelling something new. I just remember one time over the summer, I cracked open a window near their cage and they were just smelling the air. And something about me got really emotional in that moment, just thinking like, I don't know how many moments that they had like this, but I think that is one of the best experiences, is just seeing their journey through their eyes. And now we've gotten to this point. I mean, like the boys, they just melt into my hands when I pet them. And I feel so lucky to be able to offer them this little sanctuary, this little home, and see this journey through their eyes as well.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Well, you in your NARD talk, you did mention about micro sanctuaries, and I love that. I'd never even thought about micro sanctuaries, and if my landlord would allow me to do it, I would have a micro sanctuary. Except it would probably take up the whole apartment.
It's so true. And I think that actually I was inspired by New South Wales Hens Rescue. They ran a workshop on micro sanctuaries, and they spoke about the importance of, opening your home. It doesn't have to be huge, but it can just be a few animals, and think about the difference that can make. And so we did have to create space. We live in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment here, and the cage does take up quite a bit, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that often a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the space for a dog or a cat or, chickens or, rescued farmed animals, but maybe you have the space for a rat or mice or rabbit, guinea pig. And there's something just so wholesome about knowing the life they have experienced before and how you can just give them this most beautiful life now. Yeah. So we've already touched a lot on your Instagram page, but I'd love to know through your advocacy, what are some of the responses that you're getting from the public?
It has been huge. I went over these reels just earlier this week just to gather a little bit of information on the reach that has happened. And with the reels combined, just purely on the rats, it's sitting just over at 4 million views.
Wow.
Yeah. It's massive. And a lot of people, I think the biggest reaction and the most frequently asked question is, people had no idea that life after labs is possible. And the comments that come in is always, where can I adopt X lab rats from? I just want to do this here. And so it's really beautiful. I had a girl DM me from the Netherlands. She contacted her university and told me that she inquired about adopting rats that could be, retired, and they surrendered some rats to her. So it's a huge, huge thing. And I think it's a movement that is starting to normalize that this is a possibility. And I would love to see it just become a norm.
Oh, look, I mean, I'm sort of, getting a little bit teary-eyed here because I'm just thinking what a wonderful thing, and you're reaching people across the world with the work that you're doing. And have you noticed, like, other people's perceptions about rats changing through the work that you're doing? Because yes, you're getting people wanting to rescue rats, but have you seen people go, oh, I thought rats were horrible, and you've changed their perception?
Totally. And it's really funny. I have a lot of friends that maybe aren't very much involved in the animal rights movement, but they told me that their algorithm now feeds them rat content, pigeon content. And I'm like, yes. And just because this exposure and these types of educational videos just show people that rats and pigeons aren't all that scary, and they are just wonderful. And I think it's really important that we as consumers of media do also pay attention to these animals and learn more about them, because it helps break down that stigma. Yeah.
Even one of your videos that really stood out to me was about how rats sway their heads in order to see better. And it's just so cool that you're sharing, like, not just the cute content, but also really factual content, because some people might be a bit, as you used the term earlier, creeped out by their red eyes, or, that movement of swaying, like them not understanding that there's a purpose to it. So it's really fascinating. Like, I'm learning so much from your content. And
so
yeah,
interesting though that, because your three are albino rats, does Liberty have other breeds of rats, the non-albino rats?
No, they're mostly the majority. When I went to go visit their center, they were all red-eyed, white furry ones. I think a few of the guinea pigs weren't albino, but for the most part, they were, all swaying.
I believe that research rats and mice and guinea pigs, they prefer the albino ones because they can actually see if there's any, like, skin reactions or anything like that. Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
Most of the X-research small animals tend to be albino.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, you learn things more on the Vegan Compass podcast.
But isn't that so sad that they're, like, using this, specific type of animal in their research because it enables them to get better results or more effectively see their results?
And as we well know, the results don't translate into human results. So it's totally a waste of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe there was this study conducted that said 9 out of 10 testings done on animals fail in human research. It's heartbreaking, just heartbreaking to hear that we are drawing a comparison of rats to humans. Ow.
Yeah, it
And
blows me away.
it's also the age-old saying, oh, we can test on animals because they're nothing like us, but, oh, we need to test on them to see if these are going to work, these treatments are going to work for humans. Like, you can't have it both ways. That just doesn't stack up.
Now, we have talked about the cute little rats, your three. Now, what are their names again?
Okay, so I initially started off just some background here. I started off as a foster with them. I became a foster failure, so I naturally adopted them. I couldn't imagine them going to another home. I just loved them so much. But over time, when I first initially brought them in, they came with the names Corky, Eddie, and Roddy. But you know how just nicknames become formed. So Corky became Corqueño. Roddy became Ogórek, which means pickles in Polish. And then Eddie became Chino. So we have a few different names for them.
Oh my goodness! I just love them so much, and I haven't even met them.
I know.
I'm addicted to this channel.
Hey, a quick break from the episode to let you know that the Vegan Compass podcast now has merch.
You can finally rep the show with our new tees, hoodies, tote bags, and mugs.
It's the perfect way to support the show and spark a few conversations.
Just head to our website or check the link in the show notes to grab yours today.
All right, back to the episode.
But we move on because you are also an amazing person in pigeon rescue. And actually, it was your pigeon rescue that first drew me to you and your channel. I saw what you were doing. So as a pigeon rescuer, you are showing off another very misunderstood species because a lot of people hate pigeons. I can never understand why, but they're also called the rats of the sky. So that kind of ties in very well with what you do. So what sort of situations do pigeons need rescuing from?
Yeah. So first, I just want to say, I love this quote, rats of the sky, because I want to challenge that into becoming just so awesome. Like, oh yeah, they're the rats of the sky. Just make it good all around. So in terms of what they need rescuing from, sorry, we're switching to pigeons. The pigeons, for context, they were domesticated somewhere about 4,000 years ago, between 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. They were used for carrying messages, racing, and sometimes also as pets. So we used pigeons during World War I and World War II to transport messages, which resulted in these pigeons saving hundreds of human lives. Some were even rewarded medals of bravery, which is just adorable. And so, as you can just tell already, they are so loyal. They also mate for life. So not just in that sense, but to us, they have a strong devotion to humans. And now when we look at the way that we treat them, it's so questionable. How could we have domesticated them and then abandoned them to this degree? So they need rescuing from numerous different types of situations. One of the most common ones that you find in the city is stringfoot. So that's when garbage ties around their feet. That garbage can be floss, human hair, fishing equipment as well. And I just know one of the craziest rescues that the Sydney Pigeon Rescue Group did recently was a pigeon got trapped in concrete, and she was left there while people walked by. And were it not for the incredible volunteers who went out to take her out, she would have just sat there. She sustained fractures, but a GoFundMe was created to help raise her support for her vet funds. But it blows my mind away how much pigeons really need our help and how much people just ignore them. And so that's why I think this work is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that post from Sydney Pigeon Rescue, and it's so shocking. How could people just sit there as this pigeon is trapped in wet concrete, knowing that if the concrete dries around her feet, she's going to be stuck there? Like, it's so tragic. So I'm very grateful that she was rescued, and we'll put the links in the show notes so that people can support Sydney Pigeon Rescue as well.
I'm just stunned. I haven't seen that footage, and I will go and see that footage because I'm never, what's the word? Sadly, I'm so dismayed at humans, but it doesn't amaze me anymore how, humans just ignore the plight of innocent sentient beings. They just don't care. And just will walk on by any animal that's in pain and just go, whatever. So I just take my hat off to Sydney Pigeon Rescue doing that. It's just such a beautiful thing. But you talked about stringfoot. Now, I've seen some of your footage about how you're taking the string out. What kind of physical damage does stringfoot do to the pigeons?
Yeah. So stringfoot can be a very long and slow process. Depending on the severity of what damage has already been done, sometimes it can involve pigeons losing their toes because the blood circulation is being cut off. Sometimes on the other side of the scale, it can be up to their entire foot, depending on where the string in the garbage is trapped. So it's just such a horrible thing. It's such a horrible, painful thing that the pigeons deal with. And really, it's also very important work to be doing as well, de-stringing. Yeah.
I actually, while we were away, we did a little bit of sightseeing, and I was stunned. We went down to a couple of the beaches there, and there was a pigeon, and as the pigeon was walking along, there was like tape on its foot, and it was dragging the tape. Now all these people are laughing and going, "Oh, look, it's carrying." And all I did was I just quickly trod on the tape, and of course it just came away from the pigeon's foot. But had I not done that, it would have started to wrap around the poor pigeon's foot. But these people thought it was hilarious. It just blows me away.
That's so sad.
So sad. Yeah.
So walk us through a typical string foot rescue. So how do you spot pigeons with string foot, and then how do you safely or catch them with the least amount of trauma to remove the string and then release them again?
Yeah. So I was trained by this wonderful volunteer with the Sydney Pigeon Rescue Group. Her name is Brooke, and she is the absolute pro. So I'm just sharing her message and what she taught me. A de-stringing session usually starts with a feeding zone. So what you want to do is spread some seeds and bring in as much pigeons as possible. And that really helps to see, who's got some garbage tied around their feet, who's limping as well. And almost always you'll just spot them immediately because they're just, it's so visible and so obvious. So the technique of catching them safely and securely, ideally approaching them from behind. So wherever they're feeding, you go behind them and you catch them from like a top down in a vertical line, because pigeons fly upwards. So this helps, with the momentum of everything, of just being able to catch them securely, grab a towel to cover their head. So it just also helps minimize their stress, their anxieties. And ideally working in a pair is great for starters, because one person will just hold the pigeon with the towel wrapped around them, and the other person will start to working on their feet. So depending on how severe the string foot is, it can probably just involve just a pair of scissors and just taking that off. Sometimes in really difficult cases where it's already embedded deep into their foot, we use seam rippers. So that helps us get much up close and personal to being able to dislodge everything. Always have a plastic bag on you. So you put the garbage into that plastic bag so it doesn't, risk catching onto any other pigeon's feet. Hand sanitize your hands, use some antiseptic spray on the bird's feet as well. And then you just let them go, and they are just flying away and just realizing, oh my God, I can spread my feet again. I can open my toes. It is just so wonderful. And the Sydney Pigeon Rescue Group, they run these programs once every 2 weeks to show people around the city how they can get involved. And that is just really incredible, educational. And once you become equipped with that knowledge, you can just start doing it yourself.
Well, sorry, you go.
That's okay. I have the pleasure of being friends with Molly Tamulovich, who's also quite involved with Sydney Pigeon Rescue. And I was at a cafe with her one time. We were co-working, and she spotted through the window, there's a pigeon with string foot. And so she didn't have any seeds or anything on her, and she went to the staff and said, have you got any crumbs in the kitchen that we can use? So that was my introduction to pigeon rescue, and it was so amazing to see, and also empowering to be oh, this is all something that we can all do in our day-to-day lives. It comes back to not being so busy and so selfish that we're always racing on to the next thing. If you have the ability to stop and help an animal, it's so rewarding.
Yes. Yeah. And you see sometimes how severe it can be, and you just think, how has this creature been ignored for this long? So it just makes you feel this sense of, responsibility. Like, I got to do something about this because nobody else is. Yeah.
It's very true, and I think this brings me to something that I do with kangaroos, because, well, after we do our podcast with you today, we're going to be talking with Mick and Kate from Kangaroos Alive, and it's carrying some sort of rescue kit in your car. So it brings us to what's something that all of us can do. What equipment should we have, at hand? And what important skills should we learn? And one little adjunct or addition to that is, how can we get involved in learning pigeon rescue with the pigeon team?
Absolutely. So I think step one is just going with online on Facebook and checking what local community that you have. If you're in Sydney, then the Sydney Pigeon Rescue Group is a great place to start. They will teach you what kind of kit that you need. I do carry a little kit on me, which is always a seam ripper, pair of tweezers, these tiny little scissors as well, hand sanitizer, and that's just kind of like the go-to kit. And then in addition to that, of course, you just want to have like a little disposable plastic bag. If you do get a little bit more advanced, you can get some antiseptic spray, some mite spray as well, to also help treat any mites that they might have. But in terms of getting started, I think the best thing is just, if you're outside of Sydney, just watching videos on how to do it. There's plenty on YouTube. But if you are somewhere near a community that is running these destringing events, then just go with those people. They are awesome. You will just meet so many new friends. And it's something that you just become so excited about doing, because you see the impact and the reward immediately of helping these animals. So I'm actually going to stringing this afternoon, so with some friends, because it's a really fun activity to do. And it's, like I said, very rewarding.
So you just walk around the city and look for pigeons with string foot. I love that.
Now, one thing that we haven't touched on, and I think is actually quite important, because with injured birds, if it's more than just a destringing, there is some sort of physical injury, I've always been hesitant to take these birds to vets that I don't know, because vets tend to just, and sorry vets, but this does happen, they just tend to put them down. They don't seem to bother about them. How do you find like-minded vets, people who will actually go that extra yard to try and save these animals?
That is such a great question. I think, well, from my personal experience, I have actually not long ago encountered a pigeon that was poisoned, and I picked him up, and my immediate reaction was, it's so vulnerable outside here to street cats, to outdoor circumstances, rainstorms and everything. I took him home into a cardboard box, and then you can just message with different experienced pigeon caretakers and see what kind of options are available. In some cases, there are some people who can treat these birds themselves. In this case, the bird was treated by one of the more experienced carers. But in terms of deciding which vets are good and which ones aren't, I think the best case is first taking the pigeon into a safe place where it can be contained, and then consulting with experienced carers who can help guide you in the right direction. Because I think it's such an easy fix to just euthanize a bird for many people. But the reality is, for example, this poison pigeon, he had a beautiful chance. The next day, he was administered charcoal. So he was alert, wide-eyed, and just ready to be re-released again after a little bit more of treatment. But yeah, I think it's just about consulting the right people, getting involved with those volunteers, because they really know what they're doing and they can advise the best course of action. Because at the end of the day, they really care, and they genuinely want the best outcome possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good to know that there's people out there willing to go the extra mile, because unfortunately pigeons aren't a native species. And so I think a lot of vet practices, it's not that they don't want to help them necessarily. I think that there's legislation in place about wildlife and which animals they are allowed to help and not, which is sad. That should change. But yeah, thank you for your advice there.
So both rats and pigeons are very highly stigmatized by society. What has rescuing these species taught you and changed the way you think?
Rescuing these species has taught me not to judge a book by its cover and to pay close attention to these animals. I think small animals, especially, are just so overlooked in society, especially if they have been painted in a negative light by the media. But if you just pause and take some time to get to know them, you will just see these big personalities shining through. And they are so wonderful, so amazing. And for anybody who maybe is like a little bit skeptical because they might be just, initially scared of pigeons because of that reputation that they have, my suggestion would just be start with some gentle exposure, going into a park, doing some feedings, and just observing how they coo with each other and how gentle they are. And it will really start to change your mind. I think that's the best way to start.
Yeah, that's so sweet. How do you think we as a society can start to break down the stigma that we have around these animals and change the narrative?
I think when it comes to pigeons, what we can all do as a collective is start looking down more, start looking at the ground and be an observer and raise that awareness to see their suffering, their exhaustion, their need for food, their daily struggles, because it's so easy just to walk on the sidewalk while this pigeon is just flying around trying to find a place to stand. And also join your local community groups. I think that there are so many wonderful people out there who care as well, and you just got to start looking. In terms of rats, I think one of the best things to do is if you're looking to get involved, foster, adopt, or start as simple as volunteering. Go volunteer at Liberty Foundation, get to know these individual animals firsthand, and then you'll just start to see like, wow, I found my future best friend.
Aww.
Yes, well, we do have a foster failure sitting right here. She's 3 cats in, and
yeah.
and she rescued the 3, so it's also pretty amazing. But we've come pretty much to the end of our incredible, wonderful episode. I mean, I'm sitting here just with constant goosebumps on my arm. It's just been so wonderful. What would be your final message to leave with our listeners, viewers today?
Yeah, this is actually, I guess, a quote that I sprinkle everywhere that I go. It is a philosophy that I live by, and it has helped me be influenced by my decisions as well. So I know that we can't save all the animals because that is a recipe for burning out. We can't be looking at this whole picture and thinking like, I gotta fix everything. But what we can do is just start by remembering that saving one animal won't change the world, but it will change the world for that one animal. So it's okay to start small and just dream big. So I would love to just encourage people to think, instead of thinking like, oh, somebody else will do something about it, be the one who does. And then you'll see change start happening in your world and in their world as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Monika, it's been so nice to have you on the podcast. Like, you're so radiant and joyful, and we just appreciate all of the work that you're doing for these rats and pigeons who are just so unfairly treated by society. So yeah, we can't thank you enough for coming on and telling us about the amazing work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. It has been such a pleasure and such an honor to be here. I love the work that you do. So thank you. Thank you again.
Well, as soon as we saw you at NARD, I said to Mackenzie, we got to get Monika on. She's awesome. So we can't thank you enough for everything that you do. As Mackenzie said, for the rats and the pigeons, but also for spreading the word for all other animals and sentient beings on this planet. So thank you for being with us today, Monika. So it brings us to the end of another just amazing episode of the Vegan Compass podcast. Thank you for viewing or listening from wherever you are. Drop us some messages. We love hearing from you. And also don't forget to like and subscribe and share the episode with your friends. That is so important to help us get a better reach. So we'll see you again in our next episode.
Yes, we will. Thank you very much, Rick. And thank you, Monika. And thank you to everyone listening.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, please let us know by leaving a comment and share this episode with a friend.